And let's start with the Patriots offense because I know a lot of you are excited about Drake Maye. You should be excited about Drake Maye. Gave you hope, gave you encouragement from last week's loss against Houston. Even though they lost by 20, you walked away and said, hey, Drake Maye, he made some plays, and he gives us a chance to win in the future. And he looks like he could be that guy. Very early, but it looks like he could be that guy, and many people are excited. So now Maye starts this weekend in London against the Jaguars Sunday morning. As I mentioned, he had an MRI reportedly on the knee. Everybody at practice yesterday said Drake Maye looked absolutely fine at practice. He looked fine at practice today, according to those who were there in person, taking videos, taking pictures. He has no visible brace on his knee, which is good news. He has practiced fully all week, which would be another indication that he is healthy. Alex Van Pelt came out this week and said that the things that were going on with his knee, how they were handling it, it was all precautionary. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of concern about Maye's knee. There doesn't seem to be any talk about a serious knee injury. Did he sprain it? Did he ding it? I think that much is understood, but it doesn't seem at this moment to be a serious problem. So we have to go into Sunday believing Drake Maye will mostly look like the guy that he looked like on Sunday against Houston from a health standpoint. So that's very good news. Now, if you go by the numbers, if you're just looking at the numbers in this matchup, this should be a fantastic day for Maye. Because when you look at Jacksonville, they are literally one of the worst defenses in football. By DVOA standards, they are the worst defense in football. But when you look at the Jaguars against the pass, their pass defense has been wretched. Let me run through some numbers for you. They are 30th in pressure rate, so they're not getting at the quarterback. 31st in pass rush win rate, another number that should tell you they're not getting after the quarterback enough. They are 30th in EPA versus the play action. So when teams have gone to the play action, they have absolutely eaten up, munched on this Jaguars pass defense. 32nd in total DVOA, 32nd in EPA per dropback. So again, we are talking about one of the worst pass defenses in football, and now Drake Maye gets his second start against that defense. What does Jacksonville do? They're number 1 in cover 2. They're number 4 in man coverage. So they play a lot of man coverage. And when they're not in man coverage, when they play zone, they play a lot of cover 2. You get that 2 shell, 2 safeties in the back. Now, what will Jacksonville do against the Patriots? It's a fascinating question because last week we talked about this. When you look at what Maye did against Houston, Maye played much better against man coverage than Jacoby Brissett ever did this season. So now teams, if you're going to play man, including that Kayshon Boutte touchdown over the top, if you're going to play man, you have to think in the back of your head, well, now Drake Maye can beat us if we play man. We weren't so worried about that with Jacoby Brissett. So how much man coverage does Jacksonville play? Again, they play the 4th highest amount of man in the league. Will that continue? Will that trend continue this weekend? If they play man coverage, I would expect Drake Maye to take plenty of deep shots. I would expect him to throw the football down the field. I would also expect him against man coverage to try to beat those guys on in-breakers, which, Maye loves throwing the football in the middle of the field. So those in-breaks from the wide receivers, maybe some opportunity against man coverage. What do I think Jacksonville is going to do? My gut tells me that Jacksonville is going to play plenty of zone. I'll tell you why. When you play zone coverage, you're forcing the quarterback to dink and dunk his way down the field. And I think Jacksonville will play a decent amount of zone on Sunday because they are going to want to test 2 things from Maye. They want to test his accuracy, especially intermediate and even closer to the line of scrimmage. They want to see if Drake Maye can consistently, we talked about the footwork, we talked about him missing some easy ones. He did it at UNC, he did it against Houston. And I think Jacksonville will go into this game saying, prove it to us. Prove, Drake, that you can consistently be accurate to these receivers 10 yards, 15 yards, and in. I think they're going to force Maye to try to dink and dunk his way down the field because not only does it test your accuracy, it also tests your patience. Second NFL start. Will Drake consistently be patient in the pocket? So I anticipate the Jaguars playing a decent amount of zone coverage and testing Maye's patience and testing his accuracy. I have a lot more thoughts on this football game, but let me jump to another super chat, $5 super chat from After the Huddle. Appreciate the five. In here like swimwear. Also, shout out to Mrs. Teresa for dropping in our pod to show love. Nice. So Terry dropped by. Love to see that. If we end with a top 5 pick, do we trade down with quarterback needy teams? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the draft right now. But if you do end up with a top 5 pick, I think you do one of two things. You either draft the top left tackle that's available if you think that tackle will be gone by the time you traded down to wherever you traded down to. If you think the top 1 or 2 tackles, Campbell, Banks, others, if you think one of the top 2 tackles is still going to be available to you at the spot you drop down to, then the best scenario is you trade down, you pick up extra draft capital, and you draft yourself the future left tackle with that first round pick. But I would not sacrifice an opportunity to land the best left tackle in the draft to drop down a few slots to pick up that extra draft capital. I think the number one priority for this football team going into the offseason is find yourself a franchise left tackle, and you do that. The best way you can do that is via the draft. It's not free agency. It's not trades. The best way to find your future left tackle, the guy who's going to be there for the next 10 to 15 years, is you go into the first round with that priority and you draft that guy. Now, if you can get the best of both worlds, then you do it. All right, back to the Patriots offense versus the Jaguars defense. If I'm right, if Jacksonville leans on zone play because they want Drake Maye to be patient and they want to make sure that he can be accurate consistently enough, 10, 15 yards and in. If they do play that zone coverage an awful lot, this could open up the run game for the Patriots. And so when you have those light boxes, you can attack those light boxes with your run game, which brings us to Ramondre Stevenson. Stevenson is a game-time decision. If Stevenson plays on Sunday, I think that gives this offense a big boost. And I think we saw that last week. Antonio Gibson is good. He's not great. He's a really good third down back to me, even though his pass protection could be better. I think they should be using him more as a receiver. Not sure why they're not. Maybe that will change. But Ramondre Stevenson, his ability with his contact balance to pick up those extra yards after contact, to make those kinds of game-changing plays that he can make at any moment. He's not a top 5 running back. He might not even be a top 10 running back. When he's healthy, though, he's damn good. And Stevenson in this matchup could help. Because when you look at the Jaguars' rush defense, again, their pass defense is terrible. Their rush defense, it's interesting. They're 10th in yards per carry. They give up 4.3 yards a carry. But when you look at the run rate of the opposition, teams are not running against the Jaguars. Why? Because they see the Jaguars' piss poor pass defense, and they say, why are we going to sit here and try to run the football a ton when we can attack these guys and attack their lack of discipline? Because that's what really hurts the Jaguars' defense, their lack of discipline. They're too aggressive. They're undisciplined. They give up big plays. So when you look at this, the run game, it's not that. It's not that the Jaguars have been awesome at stopping the run. They're 25th in run stop win rate. It's just teams are not running against them a ton. And so it would seem to me that when teams run the football against the Jaguars, it's very likely predictable when they run the football because the Jaguars know opposing teams want to attack them with the pass. So I do think there are some possibilities here in the run game, and there are possibilities within the run game, especially through Drake Maye. We talked about Drake Maye's athleticism, his ability to make defenders miss, his ability to make plays with those legs. We saw it a little bit last week. But the Jaguars' defense against running quarterbacks, the Jaguars' defense against scrambling quarterbacks has been awful. They're 28th in football against the scramble. This is the perfect game where Maye can buy time. He can scramble around. He can pick up extra yards with his legs. It's a 3rd and 5. Everybody's covered. Drake takes off, gets 7 yards, extends the drive. The Jaguars have had a terrible time of slowing down quarterbacks that can run. Last week, Caleb Williams, he ran for 56 yards. 56 yards for Caleb Williams. Now, the biggest question is Drake Maye's knee. Again, people say he looks fine, looks like he's healthy. He's not wearing a brace. But the question is, will Alex Van Pelt be confident enough to design runs for Drake Maye? Will he include some of those read options that we didn't see a ton last week? Will they take advantage of Maye's ability athletically on Sunday, or will they feel we can't put Drake Maye in a position to take more hits? Because that knee, he's healthy, but that knee is dinged up. And we don't want to take the extra risk with running him out there, right? I don't know the answer to that question. We'll have to watch to see how it plays out. But what I can tell you is, if Van Pelt and this team is absolutely confident that Drake Maye can be the same Drake Maye he's been since he was drafted, and the athleticism will not be impacted whatsoever by this knee issue, then they will run the football, and they should run the football with Maye. They should have designed runs within this game plan for Maye, because this is the defense that you can take advantage of doing just that. I've got more thoughts on the offense against the Jaguars defense, but let me jump to another super chat. Anthony Bennett, $5 super chat. Thank you, Anthony, for the 5. Can we finally see some passion and emotion on the sideline? Too many players seem to be fine with playing bad or committing penalties. Interesting. I mean, I haven't been to a game, so I don't know what the sideline looks like live at the game. You know, when you see shots of the sidelines, when you watch these games, a lot of times it's after, bad plays, or they're questioning something, which usually isn't the best moment to see the sideline lively. I will say the video that was released by the Patriots this week, you did see a lot of life on the sidelines, especially for Drake Maye, especially from the wide receivers. Now, of course, that is a team-released video, so they're going to highlight some of the very best moments. I think this team, as far as energy goes, I think they're okay, given that they're 1-5. Now, if they lose this game and they continue to lose, then the life on the sidelines might not be great. But I do think Drake Maye, starting last week, gave this team a little bit of a boost as far as morale and energy and vibe. And if he goes out there and plays well on Sunday, then that should continue. Thanks for the 5, Anthony. Again, it's much appreciated. All right, before I give you more thoughts about this Patriots offense against the Jaguars defense, couple of things. Got to give you the sell here. The sell job, as always. Doesn't cost you any money. Doesn't cost you a ton of time, but you can help us out by clicking the thumb on the lovely YouTube podcast channel here. Give us that thumbs up as you're watching this video. All the thumbs helps us out. More likes means more eyeballs. Again, we're trying to beat that algorithm. And if you can comment, what do you expect from Drake Maye in his second start? Are you concerned about Drake Maye's knee? Are you excited about this specific matchup? Throw a comment in there, whether you're watching live or on demand. Likes and comments help build traffic, helps us beat that algorithm. And while you're here, if you love what we do, don't forget to subscribe. You can also hit that notify bell. We are now over 4,500 subscribers. We made a pretty good jump over the last 24 hours or so. The next goal is 5,000 subscribers. We can get to that number with your support. And as I say it all the time, I appreciate every single one of you who watch this podcast, who listen to this podcast, the Spotify, Apple Pod people who rate and review. You are why I am able to still be doing this. So I appreciate every one of you. Let's continue to drive this together. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. All right, let's wrap up with a couple more points on the offense before we get to the defense. Offensive line. Gerard Mayo came out today and said that Layden Robinson is going to play on Sunday. Now, since the coach said that, I think it's rather obvious we should expect Mike Onwenu back at right tackle. I don't think they want to play Onwenu at right tackle. Scott Peters just said, the offensive line coach, in the last 10 days to 2 weeks, he just told us they believe Onwenu is a better guard than tackle. But they're in a spot because of all of these injuries to the offensive line. This will be the 7th different starting combination on the O-line in 7 games. They have been incapable of staying healthy. It's frustrating. But because of that, I think they move Onwenu to right tackle. They move Demontre Jacobs to left tackle. And then you will have Layden Robinson at right guard. I think that will be your offensive line. And, of course, at left guard, you'll have Michael Jordan, who's been pretty damn good. And you will have Ben Brown, who was a great story last week, at center. So I think that's what your offensive line will look like on Sunday morning. Now, here's the issue. Evan Lazar writes this about the Jaguars' defensive ends. Josh Hines-Allen, who used to be Josh Allen, changed his last name because he got sick and tired, I think, of being called Josh Allen with Josh Allen in Buffalo. Josh Hines-Allen, he'll be the guy going against Trey Jacobs. Explosive dude off the edge. And Evan Lazar said he's ranked 12th among all defenders with 24 quarterback pressures. So on a team that doesn't get a lot of quarterback pressure, Josh Hines-Allen gets a lot of quarterback pressure. And he's going to be the guy that's going against Trey Jacobs. That's a scary proposition for the Patriots. Hines-Allen, according to Lazar, likes to win with speed, using a chop rip, explosive inside-out rush. Hines-Allen and Travon Walker are the potential game wreckers on the Jaguars defense. Now, Walker, he'll be going against Mike Onwenu. Walker's a former number 1 pick, hasn't really produced like a number 1 pick, but he's still incredibly athletic. He has 23 quarterback pressures and 5 sacks this season. So Walker and Hines-Allen is this team's pass rush. Those two guys, even though the overall pressure rate has not been great, Hines-Allen and Walker have a bunch of pressures. Almost 50 combined pressures from those two edges. And Walker has 5 sacks. And he's capable of, as Evan writes, of having huge games. Against Indianapolis, Walker had 3 sacks and 7 quarterback pressures. And so that will, of course, beg the question, can Mike Onwenu hold his side of the bargain against Walker? And is Alex Van Pelt? This has been a big complaint by me and others. It's driven me crazy all year long. You know what I'm going to say if you've watched or listened to this enough. Is Alex Van Pelt actually going to help his backup left tackle, his 4th or 5th string left tackle? Jacobs should be getting help against Hines-Allen on Sunday. And if he's not, it's again irresponsible from the play caller. It is a dereliction of duty by Alex Van Pelt if he doesn't help out Trey Jacobs in that matchup against Josh Hines-Allen, especially on 3rd down, big plays. You need to help Jacobs on Sunday. Can't say it enough. And hopefully he doesn't. Another interesting point about this game is Gerard Mayo came out and said that there are going to be changes happening. Many people were wondering, what will those changes be? On offense, I do wonder if we'll see less Jalen Polk. Couple of drops last week. Mayo came out and said he's going to get past the mental hurdle. So do they play less Polk? Do they put less on Polk when he's out there? I thought this was interesting. Alex Van Pelt said the team put a lot on Polk's plate, highlights him in a lot of progressions. They're now looking to spread out those responsibilities and potentially lighten the load on Polk moving forward. So Van Pelt says we're asking too much for Polk. We're putting too much on his shoulders. We made him the priority almost in the passing game, and that sounds good. But maybe because we put so much on him, he's pressing a little bit, and now he's not playing like he's capable of playing. So we're going to lighten that load. So I would not be surprised if you see less of Jalen Polk on Sunday until he gets his rhythm back, until he starts making some plays and feels better about himself. I would not be surprised by that at all. I would not be surprised if on Sunday, AVP pretty much leans into Bourne, Booty, Osborne, and, you sprinkle in some Polk until he starts to figure it out. You could also see some personnel groupings change, Do they decide to play Austin Hooper less after the fumble last week? Do you play more 11 personnel? If you play more 11 personnel, that means you get Pop Douglas on the field more. But it also means you're going to run the football less. So will Van Pelt go with more 11 personnel, play Pop Douglas, and sit Austin Hooper down? At least a little bit. If I'm the Patriots with this matchup, I want Pop Douglas on the field as much as I can get Pop Douglas on the field. not just because of what he did last week, not just because he's your best wide receiver right now, but also when you look at the Jaguars, they've had major issues against slot receivers. Evan Lazar writes that the Jaguars are allowing a league worst 128.3 passer rating to slot receivers. Slot receivers this year against the Jaguars have 45 catches, 458 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Slot receivers have killed the Jags. Your best receiver is your slot receiver. I'd be shocked if Pop Douglas doesn't play well on Sunday. I'd be shocked if he's not a big part of this game plan. He should be a big part of this game plan. And if he's not, again, we have to look at Alex Van Pelt. The Jaguars, critical times, they haven't been great. Their defense is 25th on third down, and they are the worst red zone defense in football. Patriots are the worst red zone offense in football. So the worst red zone offense against the worst red zone defense. Who wins? Who wins the poop bowl of the red zone? The Patriots, if they get into the red zone, they have to finish these drives. Even though they're the worst red zone offense in football, they're playing against a defense that has not been able to stop teams from scoring. You need to finish the drives.